much do you play online video games?
Well, not so much anymore, but I used to play quite a bit. There was a time where I was probably playing, I don't know, maybe even 10 hours a week. Maybe more than that, I don't know.
Do you play online video games?
A little bit, not a lot. I'm not very good at it yet, I think.
I play video games, not as much as I used to, but I used to play for a few hours every couple days.
Which games did you play?
Mostly Star Wars Galaxies, that was the big one for me. I liked Star Wars Galaxies a lot.
Okay. Why did you play that game so much?
Well, I got into it. There was a lot of people involved, there was a lot of stuff that could be done. I liked the fact that every single thing in the game actually came from another person, somewhere else in the world that was actually setting all this stuff up, and it was really enjoyable for me to be, sort of part of that sort of community.
I've played Galaxies. I just started playing Warcraft. I like games where there are other people playing, so that, well, it's more personal, and I can get probably help from other people, because I can't, I don't have the mentality to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, so I just generally walk around and talk to people a lot.
Why did you enjoy playing those games if you didn't really play the game?
Probably it was like a fun escape. It was the type of thing where I got to have a character and have a completely different personality and not really worry about what anyone thought, because most of the people I was talking to lived halfway around the world.
I played Star Wars Galaxies a lot. I also played Guild Wars a bit more recently. And I used to play like Warcraft and stuff. They're fun, enjoyable. I've always been a big Star Wars fan. Watched the movies when I was a kid, of course. And a lot of my other friends got into Guild Wars. They kept telling me, "Oh, it's so great, you got to join us." So they kind of sucked me in, and before I knew it, I was playing with them. And of course, when you're with a group of friends, you keep playing more and more, and before you know it, you're having so much fun. As you're playing, you don't notice the clock on the wall. 5 hours has gone by.
You were talking about items in the game?
Yeah, individual items in the game were all individually made by players of the game. You see, there was, well, the way the game was set up, there was sort of an economic basis where you'd have a sort of, it was almost a microcosm of real global economy. All around the planet there were kids playing this game. And
you said a lot of kids playing? What kind of people did you meet? Did you only meet kids?
Oh, certainly no. Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, I spoke without thinking there. To be fair, I was involved in a large group in the game. It was, well, they called them guilds in all the online games. My very first guild that I was in for, well, a couple of months. I don't recall. It wasn't all that long. I'd say there was probably in that one about 100 people maybe, and I'm trying to remember. We kept logs of it. We did have one person below the age of 19 involved in that guild. I think he was something like 14.
Right.
But you never would have known to speak with him. But everyone else was 19 plus. And I remember that one of the people who I dealt with on a regular basis, I know he was in his 40s. And
okay.
So, yeah. Kids really isn't the appropriate word.
Have games ever interfered with your real life?
I'd have to say no. I woke up early one day because I wanted to be one of the first people involved in one of the things on the game, but I'd hate to say that was really interfering. At the time I was pretty seriously injured and I wasn't working, and so it worked out well for me, actually. I happened to get up a little earlier that morning than I would normally have gotten up, and...
Okay, so you think it's a harmless hobby?
Yeah, well, I'd say that it was certainly a harmless hobby for me.
Yeah. Not necessarily my playing video games, but other people who would decide that they'd rather, I don't know, go to some meeting online, or, I don't know, they have to finish this level before they can go out, and the level takes 2.5 hours or something like that.
Like who?
My boyfriend.
Okay, and you feel that sometimes he plays a little too much?
Yeah, sometimes. It's an off and on thing, where sometimes he'll get really into it and he'll be playing every day for a couple weeks, and then sometimes he can just drop it and it's not a big deal.
Okay. When he does play a lot, how often, like, how long does he play for?
Hours a day, constantly. Comes home from work and gets back on his game and will avoid television. He'll tape things and he'll just sit there and keep playing until he's finished whatever task it is. And a lot of times that can be 2 or 3 hours a day. Easily 3 hours.
Do you feel he might be addicted to video games?
It seems like it when he's playing. If like I said, it's an off and on thing. When he is playing, he doesn't drop it and he's always there. But when he finally gets away from it, it's not like he feels like he needs to go back. But as soon as he starts playing again, he's on every day.
I'm going to read something for you here.
All right.
It's a quote from the Associated Press, an article. In South Korea, a hardcore video gaming culture was blamed last year for at least 4 deaths. 3 men died after or during gaming bouts, one as long as 20 days. A 4-month-old baby suffocated while its parents were out playing video games. How do you feel about that?
That's not acceptable. That's not right. People shouldn't be allowed to get that involved in something that's not, I guess, real life.
Right.
That can't be true.
It is.
Oh, wow. It's kind of scary.
You know what? I'd have to say in this particular case, some people are just going to be driven to excess. It doesn't matter what they do. I've built cars that were scary as hell, and should not be trusted in the hands of anyone. I'd say that there's people out there who eat to the point where, they're gonna weigh 1,000 pounds, but that's got to be in the minority. I mean, if you stick to something a little more normal, regular people, I don't think that's as much going to be a problem. Irresponsible parenting is obviously an issue here, but I don't think...
right.
Yeah.
I heard about those last year. A friend of mine sent me links to the news articles when they actually happened. It was really shocking. I was surprised. The problem is in Korea they have these internet cafes where they encourage people to leave their house and go to these cafes and play. And you can play a couple bucks. You can pay a couple bucks and play for hours. And sometimes they have vending machines for food and snacks, so people will just sit there for like 3 days straight and play games while eating out of these vending machines. And a couple of guys have eaten just nothing but fried noodles out of a vending machine for like the article said, for 20 days until they ended up dying of dehydration. And it's horrible. Recently, just like this week, a friend of mine also sent me a new article. Apparently now in China, they're setting up sweatshops where they are hiring kids to play video games because the money that they earn in the video game can be sold on eBay to other players here in North America. So they're actually turning a profit, making a business out of kids' addictions.
Psychologist Kimberly Young estimates that 5% to 10% of internet users have compulsive bouts. She said, "So many people come to me after going to 3 or 4 other psychologists who just didn't get it, and they just told them to turn off the computer." Young said that's like telling an alcoholic to stop drinking. Do you believe video game and internet addiction exist?
Oh, yeah. I can see that. I just in minor situations with people around me, it's not as easy as just turn it off. They're involved. There's an entire lifestyle on there. And with the internet, when you have other people, it's a little different than drinking. It's not a solitary event in that case when you're an alcoholic. It's the type of thing where you've got a whole community supporting you in your addiction. So I can definitely see that being a problem.
An entire community supporting you?
Yeah, everyone else who's online who has the same problem. And even the people who don't feel that they have a problem but they're on occasionally, they're still there. So now the person with the addiction is looking forward to seeing these people online, and they've got a friendship and a circle, a clique online that's not even a face-to-face thing. So it's something to look forward to. It's not something to feel ashamed of, which makes it even worse.
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question. I think that addiction is normally a chemical issue in the brain that is, it's an actual, physical dependency.
Right. The need to have something.
yeah, I mean, I can see how heroin addiction. I mean, obviously, an opiate is actually going to mess up what's going on in your head.
Right.
I could say that there are people, like I said before, there are people who are going to be driven to excess no matter what it is they do. And if it feels good, a lot of people do it. I'm sure there's compulsive masturbators out there. I'm sure there's compulsive everything out there. And I'm not necessarily going to say that it's an addiction, per se. I think it fills a need for people, but maybe need is even too strong a word. Some people are going to be driven to excess. I don't know if I believe in addiction to online gaming, per se.
Yeah, I believe internet addiction and video game addiction exists. Some people become addicted to it. Even I've played sometimes for several hours and then thought, whoa, where did the time go? Maybe I should back off a bit. And so I guess I'm not addicted because sometimes I feel like I'm wasting too much time. But some people have to lock the game away or uninstall the game just to stop playing. One guy I know has to do that. He has to uninstall the game, and it can be tough.
You do believe it could be a dangerous addiction?
Oh, yeah.
And that's probably what happened to the people in South Korea?
Yeah, I can see that.